to another special edition of JMC Interviews. Today we have Brandi Lynn WILCOX, a 7-time veteran missionary, and she's going to be going 11 months, 11 countries on the world race. Now, she's a graduate at Trine University in accounting. You're probably wondering, what has accounting got to do with anything? You'll find out more later in this exclusive interview with Missionary Brandi Lynn WILCOX. Stay tuned. Alright, welcome Brandi. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm assuming this nice little vacation is turning out to be something you won't see for quite some time, am I right?
Correct, yes.
How much more until the time to leave? What is it, 3 months?
3-ish months. I will be departing in July. I'm not certain exactly of the day yet. So.
Not certain. Well, a lot of our viewers have been excited to hear about a missionary. I wanted to start out by you just telling us a little bit about yourself. Like I mentioned in the introduction, 7 mission trips between Virginia, Ohio, Florida, New Jersey, Mexico, Kenya. You want to tell us just a little bit about yourself real quick here?
Yes. Well, to start off, I actually grew up in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. And I went to school at Miami Trace. And I ended up leaving Courthouse and going straight to Angola, Indiana for school. And while I was there, I decided to major in accounting. And I actually got heavily involved in an organization called Christian Campus House on my campus. And it just changed my life, and I just started going on missions trips, and I just felt this calling to go and to share Christ throughout the United States and throughout the world. And my first missions trip was with Christian Campus House in March of 2009. And I went to Dungannon, Virginia to go on a service project there to just serve the community in whatever ways we could. And while I was there, we just turned over thrift stores. We actually were able to clean up a house for a family that had previously just lost their house just that Friday before we got down there. And we were able to just gut out this entire house, clean all of the carpets, and we also were able to tear down a community center and fix it up so that that could eventually be a place for this poverty-stricken little city in the mountains of Virginia, so that this community could come together and be able to have a place to go to for help, for whatever things that they were going through in their life. And we were also able to we ran out of stuff to do actually, and we just ended up going through the city or this little town and picking up trash everywhere along the sides of the road. And by the end of it, we just came to a conclusion, like, we didn't really talk to anyone there, but they saw us serving, they saw Christ in us and being able to serve the community. And that town was just so small and so broken. Literally the only store that they had there was Dollar General. So like every time I see a Dollar General to this day, it's like, oh, there's a DG, and it just has like this special place in my heart and reminds me of Dungannon, Virginia. But other than that, I had never even heard of Dungannon, Virginia. It was awesome to be able to go down there and to experience it. And actually when I was there, one of my close friends, Sarah Clark, had come up to me and she said that she was getting baptized, and I just had this overwhelming feeling and sensation throughout me that I needed to go and I needed to be baptized too, because I had experienced just such community and love through the Christian Campus House. And I realized that everything that I had gone through in my life, from leaving my family to a domestic violence case to moving in with this other family, and then just having all these things going on in my life. And in high school, my senior year, I was suicidal. And all these things, I just realized that I needed God in my life, that I needed this Jesus guy, and that it was just going to be what God was calling me to do. So I got baptized actually on March 13th, 2009, when I was in Dungannon, Virginia at First Baptist Church in Dungannon. So, and then like when I came back from that trip, I came back to school and I was like, oh man, what am I doing this summer? I don't have anything to do. I don't really want to go back to Courthouse because there's not really anything there for me. So then I started praying, and Ministry to the Point, which is through His House Campus Ministries in Michigan, came to my mind, and I just prayed about it, and I felt God was leading me to go. So not even a week after I'd been back from Dungannon, I applied to go on Ministry to the Point. And I was accepted to go, and my faith was tested even before I went, because there was a hiring freeze at Cedar Point, which is where we were going to end up working, and they weren't hiring anyone else. And then they have connections there. This organization's been there since about 2008 doing ministry there, and I realized that like we needed to just trust God in it, and we ended up everyone in my group ended up getting jobs at Chick-fil-A if they did not already have a job through Cedar Point. And so I worked at Chick-fil-A for the summer as a cashier, and sometimes I worked in the back cooking. But it was just so awesome to see like God at work at Cedar Point. It was one of the hardest mission trips I've been on because I was lacking community. I started a relationship that was not something I should have done during the summer, and just realizing that like God has a greater purpose for me on Trine's campus to share Him and to share His love. So that was the biggest thing that I learned from that. I mean, the entire summer I just tried building relationships and getting to know people. A lot of people that I worked with at Chick-fil-A were already Christians. So it was really, really hard for me to be able to reach out to them and to share Christ with them when they already knew Him. But we could grow as brothers and sisters. So it was one of the hardest missions trips, but then I came back to Trine my sophomore year, and I just kind of just distanced myself from Christian Campus House because I was angry and I was frustrated with the people because they didn't go outside the CCH bubble, like we like to call it, and I just started meeting new people and hanging out with other people, and coming in second semester I realized that was something that I shouldn't have been doing, and I should have been being in community and being involved in this and letting people know who Christ is through the bubble and outside the bubble, and just sharing Christ throughout. And so then I got more reconnected with CCH spring semester, and I was actually the leader for the missions trip for that my sophomore year spring break, and we went to Panama City Beach, Florida. And to be honest with you, I'd never felt the Holy Spirit lead me as much as I ever did there. God would just have this overwhelming feeling come upon me, and like I was with a senior named Ryan Grell, and we were on this street crew where we would walk the streets of Panama City Beach from club to club and just share with people about Christ or help them if they need to get back to their hotel. And this guy just looked at me and he was like, "Brandi, do we go left or right?" And I said left, and it turned into a spiritual conversation that lasted like over 5 hours. So just to have God lead me through that and lead me through someone that I looked up to, and he was even looking up to me as a sophomore. When we were in Panama City Beach, we also actually had a van ministry, so we would take people from club to club, and we would have someone strategically placed in each of the seats so that we could share the gospel with them while we were traveling. And then we had a street crew, which would be out walking around, like I had already mentioned. And then we had people in a command center, and I actually worked in the command center the very first night, which was a hot mess, as I like to say. And we had people that would call in, and then we ended up, like, the system wasn't working out very well, so people weren't getting van rides, and it was all worked out later on in the week. But so I was in the command center answering the phone calls for people that were wanting van rides and coordinating them with everyone. And then we also had free pancakes in the morning, every morning from, I think it was 10 to 2 at a bowling alley right off the beach. And it was awesome to be able to start spiritual conversations with people, to serve people, and to love people. And actually through that ministry and through that idea, as well as through another campus in Kentucky, my campus has started a Friday night pancakes ministry, and I have had the honor of being able to be a leader for that, and just to serve and love the campus of Trine University from an idea back from Panama City Beach. So it was awesome to be able to go down there and just to go in the power of the Holy Spirit and just see these relationships be cultivated. I am still in contact with a couple people that I met down there, and I know that God is at work in their lives, and just the impact that we had. So after my sophomore year, when I came back from that trip, I actually felt called again to go into missions, and so I actually looked up on Google missions opportunities throughout the United States, and I came across summer projects with Campus Crusade for Christ. So I looked into it a little bit more, and I applied, and I found out that I was going to be going to Wildwood, New Jersey for the summer of 2010. Right? Yeah, summer of 2010. So I went out there, and our main goal was to do like boardwalk evangelism and evangelism in our workplace as soon as we would find a job. And I went out there, and there were over 40 other people that were there with me, living in one house, and there were leaders within Campus Crusade for Christ from across the United States, from like New York and mainly Indiana, who'd come together, and they helped lead us for the first couple of weeks, and then we just took over in the ministry. And I was actually a part of the outreach group when I was there. When I was a part of the outreach group, we helped to plan activities. I actually came up with the idea of doing a pancake outreach. So one night we hosted a pancake fourth meal, if you would call it that, because I like Taco Bell, so that works. And we were able to just give pancakes to people that were coming by. While New Jersey is a really big resort town, so during the summer, there's just people everywhere. People are walking around, just filling their lives with endless things. The place that we were staying at was right off the shore, like 3 blocks away from the Atlantic Ocean, which was the boardwalk as well. And there's an amusement park called Maury's Piers, where a lot of international students come during the summer, and we were able to just reach out to them and to love on them and just really go in the power of the Holy Spirit and walk out on the boardwalk and approach people and ask them if they'd like to take a quest survey, where we would ask them 5 questions to lead them to a deeper conversation with Christ. And honestly, the entire summer, I just tried involving more people, of going up and approaching people, because it's not hard at all for me to walk up to someone and to share Christ with them, but for some other people, they would just walk by and be like, no, I don't feel called to walk up to that person. But for me, it just comes so naturally for me to be able to walk up to someone and just to introduce myself and to share Christ with them. But the best moment the entire summer was when I met this girl on the boardwalk, and I just walked up to her. She was a teenager, and I introduced myself to her, and she went through the quest survey, and we started going through the KGP, which is the Would You Like to Know God Personally booklet. And I went through it with her, and she said that she wanted to accept Christ into her life, and there's a prayer in the booklet to receive Christ, and she said that she wanted to pray that prayer and that she wanted to accept Jesus fully into her heart and into her life. And we started to pray, and she just had these tears that would flow from her eyes, and she just didn't know what to say or do. And in that moment, I just didn't know what to do other than hug her. And we actually shared contact information. And to this day, this girl, her name's actually Miranda Torrance, has been a part of my life. She will text me and encourage me. She has supported me with previous missions trips, with purchasing stuff. She's offered to give me a laptop for the World Race. She's just been like an angel in my life, and just been a way for me to see how one seed can be planted and how she can go and do these things, because she's been working with Samaritan's Purse for the last 2 years for Christmas time, to send the boxes overseas to different places internationally, as well as she's done homeless ministry of giving out peanut butter and jelly sandwiches within parks within Philadelphia, which is where her hometown is. So it's just been amazing to be able to just share life with her and to see her grow in her relationship with Christ. So it's been really exciting. And then after I got back from Wildwood, New Jersey, I was in my junior year of college. During my junior year, I went on another spring break missions trip with Christian Campus House, and I went to Acuna, Mexico, with an organization called Casas por Cristo, which is based out of El Paso, Texas, I do believe. And we went down there, and we actually built 2 homes for 2 separate families. And the homes are, I don't remember the exact measurements of them, but this family that we built the house for was currently living like in a tin shack on the top of a hill, and it had to be freezing at night, and we were able to build them a house right next door to where their previous house was. And just to be able to be there, even though I have very, very little knowledge of Spanish, just to be able to be there and to love on the kids and to build this house for this family that didn't have like anything. It was just a blessing. And I know it was a blessing for us to be able to serve and for them to be able to live in the house afterwards. And actually just recently, about 2 weeks ago, when we built the house, they had no electricity there. And then we went and we put up electricity throughout the house, so that if they ever got electricity to their area, then they would have it. And the mom just added me on Facebook about 2 weeks ago, and she was just thanking me so much for how much work we did on the house and how much of a blessing it has been for her and her family, and that she's so thankful for this care package that I sent her with pictures and a little note from me and some Mickey Mouse stuff, because she had Mickey Mouse stuff all up in her old house. So it was really cute to be able to just see her post on my Facebook, and she's always like liking and commenting on my stuff. So it's really encouraging to be able to have that relationship still there and to be able to go back to it. So, and then during my senior year of college, after I got back from Mexico, I had actually already been accepted to go on an internship with Christian Missionary Fellowship International, which is based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And through this internship, I was going to be going to Nairobi, Kenya as an intern for 2 months, and I would be working for Missions of Hope International, which is an organization within the Mathare Valley slum, where I would just be there and just enable the nationals in whatever ways I could. And I got there, and it's crazy to see the culture of Kenya and to be there in Africa, because it's so much different than America. But when I was there, I actually ended up working with a microfinance loan company through my Missions of Hope International. And honestly, I went into the summer, and I've said for the last 3 years previously that I was never, ever, ever going to use accounting with ministry. And look what God did. He put me in a place where I would be using microfinance, which is accounting and finance, was also my minor. So I was able to use that, and with ministry, I actually went into the slum every single day, and I would go to microfinance meetings that people would be having. There were loan groups throughout all of Mathare, where I would go into the slum, and I would sit there and go through a meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, I would just like talk to them. And actually, Mathare, the place that I'm talking about, has 850,000 people that live in it in an area of about 3 square miles. So you can imagine how small it is there. And just recently, like a week or two ago, there was a landslide there, and it killed 6 people, and some of them were connected to the organization that I was with. But just to see like God at work and His presence there, even though everything that I saw like really broke my heart, I know that God is at work there through getting people in the community to come to know Christ, and people throughout Mathare to be enabled to go and share Christ. So,
you know what's quite interesting though is God leading you up these 4 years through various contacts at your school, to going overseas to doing missionary work here in the States. But did you ever even realize through that first year when this started, I bet you probably didn't even realize 4 years later you're going to be gone 11 months, the whole year, in 11 different countries for the world race. So I'm curious, how did picking the world race happen next? You've had so many experiences with missions. I was assuming this would just be something, just another step. Did they contact you? Is this something somebody told you? What's the story behind that?
Actually, my roommate right now, her name is Danielle DeYoung. One of her best friends from back home, she graduated from Olivet Nazarene University. She was on the world race when I found out that I was going to Kenya. So I was just like one of the little God things that I had. And before I went to Kenya, I actually had started an application to go on the world race. And then my campus minister, Travis, told me to stop because I needed to focus on Kenya. So I had it on my heart, and I had been praying about it, and I found out through her. And another God moment was right when I got back from being in Kenya for the summer. She had just got back, my friend Samantha Allen. Had just gotten back from going on the world race when I got back from going to Kenya, so it was just like a little bit crazy. And then I also had just finished with debriefing after Kenya, and I was in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I had planned to go to a conference that CCH goes to every year, which is National Student Conference in Evansville, Indiana. And it was perfect timing for me to be able to go because I was done on August 6th with everything for Kenya. and people from my campus were coming down from Angola, Indiana, and going through Indianapolis down to Evansville. So they were able to pick me up on their way down because I did not have a vehicle at this time. And I was able to go to this conference, and I sat there and I went to four workshops on the 7th of August. And when I went to those 4 workshops, they were all 4 on different subjects, but they all 4 shared the Great Commission in them. But not only did they share the Great Commission, they shared and emphasized going to all nations. And in the last 2 workshops, I was sitting there and I was crying my eyes out because I knew that God was calling me to go on the world race. One day after I had finished everything from Kenya. And it was just like one of those God moments that you have. And a couple weeks later, I had applied to go on the world race. I had my interview, and they called me back like a week later and told me that I was accepted to go. And then I had like 2 weeks to decide if I was really going to go or not, if this was really what God had planned for me. And I was sitting in the prayer room in the CCH main office, and I had just flipped to something in my Bible. Honestly, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was in 1 Corinthians, and just said something about just leave these things that I have, these things that you have right now, and just know that I'm going to show you the way that the things of this world are not what I have called for you, that I want you to go, and I want you to be my disciple and to share Christ. So that was just a big moment in my life. And then that night I actually had sent in my $150 deposit to go on the world race.
So can you explain to our listeners what is an application to go on a missions trip like? Like, what is required? Just sum it all up for every mission trip. Just kind of pick a few highlights. I know for mine personally, I had to do a medical background check. I had to do another background check. I had to get visas. I had to get passports, raising funds. Can you just explain to everyone real quick, like, what is an application to be a missionary about? How does that work?
Okay. So through the organizations that I've been with, I've pretty much filled out an online application every time. And you just go in, and the main things are like, what do you believe the gospel is? Like, what is that in your life? Who is Jesus to you? And like, if you had to explain the gospel in a couple words, how would you explain it? And then you just share your testimony of what God's done in your life. And then obviously the background stuff, like you need to go get your passport, you need to have shots and more shots in order to go. I only need 1 actually to go on the world race because I had so many to go to Kenya. And so like, it's just a process of doing that. And then there's also the side of you have to support raise because it's not free to be a missionary, although it would be really awesome if it was. But you have to send out letters to churches, you have to network, you have to build relationships with people, you have to get to know them, invite them into your life so that you can share with them what God's going to do through you and in you, and as well as with the people that you will meet in these countries and through these organizations. And also sharing a little bit about each organization, about where they've been and like how well known they are, and what God is doing overseas with these organizations right now. And in order for me to go to New Jersey, I had to raise $2,800, and I actually raised $3,100, yes. And then in order for me to go to Nairobi, Kenya, I had to raise like $5,672, just to be exact, because I'm an accountant, so it works out. And then I actually raised over $6,700 for my Kenya missions trip. So to be able to have all those things like come together and realize that like God is going to provide, like as soon as I found out that I was getting accepted to go to Kenya, I had just finished my phone call, and there was one of these girls that I actually live in a house with now, and her name is Ruth, and I was like, Ruth, but I'm going to Kenya, but I'm freaking out because I have to raise $6,000. Like, what am I going to do? And she was like, Brandi, $6,000 is nothing when you have God on your side. And I just remember that so much when I'm doing all these support raising, all the fundraising, and everything that I do. Just realizing that like if it's God's will, it's God's will, and I know that He's going to provide. So
the world race, did you already know the 11 countries that you were going to go to, or was that something picked later?
I had actually, before I left for Kenya, like I said, I was applying to go on the world race.
Mm-hmm.
I was applying, doing the application process for a January route. And then I realized that if I did that, I would probably go insane because During this last fall semester, which was my last semester of school, I actually had 16 credit hours, plus I had 2 jobs, so I was working 20 hours a week, plus being involved with Christian Campus House, which is pretty much a part-time job. And then if I would have added like full-blown support raising on top of that, like I probably would have never gone to sleep probably. So I decided that God was calling me to go a little bit later and to spend some time in the U.S. still raising funds and support raising and having a job. So that's when I realized that I should probably go on a July route. And actually, with the World Race now, I think what they're doing is they are doing 3 routes in January, they're doing 3 routes in July, and they're doing 3 routes in September. So like if you go to theworldrace.org, you can go under routes and you can see where all of these routes are going. And I had just been praying over it, like I didn't really have any direction, but I had decided and been led to go to July 2012 Route 2. And through this route, I will be going to Europe, to Africa, to Asia, and to Central America. So I'll literally be going around the world, and that's the kind of feel that I wanted with being on the World Race. The countries are Bulgaria, Romania, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Guatemala. I'm really excited to go to these countries because I do know a little bit of Spanish, and I also do know some Mandarin Chinese, and I know some Swahili, just enough to get me by basically, in each of those languages. So it'll be an experience to be able to go up to people and say ni hao or karibu Kenya or hola. So it'll be pretty exciting. And then plus many, many more languages on top of that.
So now that you know the 11 countries, what do you need to learn to be prepared to go to the countries?
Good question. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
well, we were having this conversation before we started this video, and one of the things that that I know, because I have friends that have done some stuff similar to the World Race, knowing what she's doing, to kind of answer this question, you really have to start doing a lot of research. For those of you that are in college or in high school or already currently at a job, this could be quite fun for you, especially for those of you who are in a communications field or like culture and everything. You literally have to place yourself in the shoes of the different people that you're meeting. You have to, as older missionaries would say, learn the language, learn the people, and build the kingdom. Mm-hmm. 3 simple little character traits of what it means to be a missionary and fulfilling the Great Commission. So in all compassing this, I mean, you can go on the worldrace.org and it'll tell you we're going to build houses, or we're going to help orphans, and we're going to help sex trafficking children and adults. But exactly what does that mean? I've had a lot of people asking that question. And it's quite simple in one word. It's called relationships. Yeah. There's going to be times where Brandi's going to go to a country and she's going to make food for somebody. There'll be another time that she's literally building a house. Other times it could be a clothing drive, or it could just be sitting down, going from house to house in the neighborhood and just meeting the people and seeing what the needs are. Sometimes being a missionary is not as a concrete set in a box goal. Like every day you're going to get up at 5 a.m., which is true. You're going to eat, and then you're going to go to a country. You're going to have a set idea of what you're wanting to have done. But overall, it's going to change. Would you agree with that, though? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, what are your expectations of going to these countries? I mean, has God told you something, like you're going to go to this country? I mean, one of the examples happened to me is one day when I was in South Africa. Every day, before we would do our drama, before we would get off the bus, before we would even go and start talking to people, invite them to see the drama, and working with the translator. The translator was on the bus with us, our team leaders on the bus. We would do worship on the bus, on the route, and then we would pray as soon as we get there. And our familiar food was peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch every day for 3.5 weeks. I was asked to pray this one time, and I don't know what it was other than God. God told me to just pray for the soul of one man. And honestly, this is the only time that when we had an altar call, one man stepped forward. Nobody else did. And it freaked everyone out. It was like, how do you know this? I'm like, what happened? I was like, it's the Holy Spirit. The interesting thing is about being around missionaries is it is an infectious disease of excitement when you understand what a missionary's gone through. When you've been on missions before, it's just something, I could keep Brandi here for an hour and a half talking to her forever. I mean, because it's just something I understand, I can relate to. But for those of you that are quite curious and wanting to know what she's doing, this is not something that she just thought about yesterday. She is a veteran. I'm using that word. She's a veteran missionary. She's done this for several years now, here in the U.S. and overseas. And honestly, the conversation I've had with her before the program today is that this isn't the end. The world race, yes, she still needs about $5,000 or so for all the total funding to come in. I mean, it's amazing that it's only $15,500 for 11 months in 11 different countries. That's airfare, that's food, that's room and board, that's toiletries. I mean, of course she's probably going to bring her own bag of clothes, and she's probably have like a backpack, and she's going to be living out of her backpack in her little carry-on in all these different countries, learning how she can clean things and everything. If you look on her Facebook and Twitter posts, you'll see that she's already trying to mimic what it would be like if she was in the middle of a country where she couldn't have a shower, or she couldn't, take care of herself. Like, what do you do? How do you, I realize being from America, not everybody's going to just wake up tomorrow and say, I'm not going to shower for 4 or 5 days, and I'm going to clean myself with wet wipes, and I'm not going to shave, and I'm not going to eat, McDonald's or whatever, and I'm going to save money and live off $1 a day for 3 weeks. It's a completely changing mindset. And that's what happens when you do this. So, Brandi, will you tell us a little bit, what are your expectations on this trip? And where do you see yourself going afterwards?
Mm-hmm. One of my quotes that I've used for some of my past missions trips, especially with Kenya, was to expect the unexpected. I don't know what's going to happen every single day. I don't know what's going to be asked of me, but I'm going in with an open heart and an open mind, and knowing that God's going to provide stuff for us. He's going to provide transportation. He's going to provide us with all of our needs, and I have 100 liters of stuff that I can bring with me, and if you know anything about packs and stuff, that is not that much at all. And I'm just trusting and going on faith that God is going to provide for all of my needs when I'm there, from having shampoo and conditioner to anything else. And honestly, I could end up not showering for a couple weeks while I'm on the race, or just taking bucket showers, or taking military showers. Those of you that went to Mexico, you know what that is. You turn the water off, get yourself wet, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, and basically that's all you do. So just being able to abandon my life here in America and to be able to see a culture and to experience things that are outside of my comfort zone, things that I'm not really going to understand, or just loving on people throughout the world. And God calls us in Matthew 28 in the Great Commission to go and make disciples of all nations, and He has really laid that on my heart a lot. And yes, there's a nation here in the United States that we can go and we can make disciples of, and there's nations coming in too. Like, I love the international students on my campus, and I love building relationships with them and sharing with Christ about them, about Christ with them. Yeah. Anyways, so I just really enjoy the relationship side of it, and honestly, I suck at my relationships. Like, it's something I've been trying to figure out. I'm very surfacey level, and I'm trying to work on that, and I think the World Race will be a big opportunity for me to understand relationships more. I mean, honestly, I have people that are from Kenya that are Facebooking me or emailing me like weekly and asking me how I'm doing, asking me when I'm returning to Kenya, and when with the World Race, I don't know where I'm going. I actually have a training camp in May that I'll learn more stuff about, but it's all up in the air, like where I'll be. When we're on the World Race, we'll actually be going from country to country, and so there's like around 60 people on my squad, which is the G squad is what we call ourselves. G unit, represent, and we will go from country to country with our squad, but when we are in the countries, we'll split up into our teams, and our teams will have between 5 to 7 people on them, and we'll actually be going and working with organizations that are already built in the country, And through those organizations, we will just enable them in whatever they need and whatever is something that they need at that time. And it's not just like we're going and then we're leaving, because in a couple months or maybe that next month there'll be another World Race squad that's going to come in. I think right now there's around 10 squads on the field with the World Race, and pretty soon there's going to be 3 more in July. So just enabling them in all those areas.
Yeah. So what happens after the World Race? Where do you think something's going to happen? You're going to get up one day, you're going to check your email, and me or someone else, it'll probably be me or something, hey, look at this, you got 3 months before the World Race, you're interested in this? Something is going to happen to Brandi, is what I'm trying to say. In this next 13, 14 months, if you've not listened to this whole interview, you have to realize God has strategically placed at the right point in her life her next direction. Most people can't even see this far ahead. 11 months. Most people here in America, they live day by day. They don't think too far in the future. But I realized, talking to Brandi and seeing the story and everything, God is going to do something that not many people have an opportunity to see. Because there's only a few people who get accepted into things like the World Race or even do certain kinds of missionary work. Because some of these countries, they're not easy to get visas into. They're not easy to get passports and so on and so forth. And relying on God with a completely blind faith, that's a character trait you just don't see in America much anymore. Now, one question I was quite curious, wondering, now that you have been well-rounded across the country and now across the globe, do you see the differences here in America versus going overseas? And like, what advice do you have for people that are here in America to like do ministry better? Any ideas on that?
Honestly, like here in America, ministry is so different versus going overseas. Like here in America, we think, I'm not condemning anyone at this, but like having a soup kitchen or doing a clothes drive and all these things are ministry. But if you read Radical by David Platt, which Jeremy and I were actually just talking about this before the interview, it's David Platt in the video shares that we need to go to all nations, and maybe it could be just from moving from your suburban home that's, $1 million or whatever, and going to a low-income community and just living with the people that are in that community and sharing Christ with them. It could be just going across seas and abandoning your American dream and sharing Christ in a new capacity. And honestly, the things that we see here in America are nothing compared to the things that I saw overseas, from going to Mexico and having dirt roads everywhere and people living in huts and people literally like dying everywhere. And then that trip just prepared me so much to go to Kenya, because I had never been exposed to urban poor before. Then I go to Kenya and I'm in this slum and I'm literally being approached by little boys and even old men and old women that are sniffing glue. They stereotypically call them like glue boys, and these kids will come up to you and approach you. They will have glue hidden in their sleeve or just even out in the open, and they'll just be sniffing it and pretty much eating it. And it makes them warm and just forget their hunger pains. And to be able to have people come up to you every single day and approach you and see that your skin is white, and to think that you have so much money and that you're just going to give them food or anything. And honestly, we went to this bus stop every single day, and the kids would come to us every single day, and it just broke my heart. Like, I mean, yeah, people in America here come up to you, but it's just not the same as it was there, because it was repetitively every single day. And just to know that these people in this slum community are hurting so bad, like everywhere you walk in Kenya, where I was at least, there was trash along the sides of the road, there was the smell of body odor, and it's just a normal thing there in Kenya. It's not anything different. Like, it's their culture. It's kind of like the makeup of where I was. And if you go to a lot of third world countries, you will see trash along the side of the road, and it just kind of breaks your heart. But it's how they live life, and it's their culture, and it's just so different to us because we're not used to it. We're used to having someone to come pick up our trash every day or at least once a week. So be able to be there and just to have all of that, it's just so much different than the life that we have here. And to go there and to have people approach you. I even had some of my coworkers and other people when I was working for the organization in Kenya ask me for money, and they don't understand, like, I don't have money either. A missionary does not make like anything other than the basic necessities of life, and to have people just come up and approach you, it just kind of breaks your heart, especially with my testimony. Like, everything that I have is from God. Like, my jobs that I have were from Him, and the money that I have, like, I don't have support from family at all, but I have support from the huge network of people that I've been able to meet and to share life with as Christians. So just to have God provide so much for me when I have so little, and trying to share that with them, it also led me to conversations and sharing with them about how much God has provided for me, and how much I don't have money, just like they don't have money. But
now, speaking about your testimony a little bit, I know a lot more because you and I share a similar path. Mm-hmm. We've had this conversation before. And I think this is the time to share that little bit about your testimony, because I think it encompasses everything about who you are, these experiences you've gone through. And you can pick whichever ones you want to cover, because I know we could be here for a whole hour just talking about this, going on and on. But just pick a few points from your testimony that you would like to share to explain to people exactly why you're doing all this stuff. Like, what has God brought you out of to want to go and help others?
Okay, so basically, like, this story will encompass, like, all the different places that I've lived. I grew up with my family, my mom, my dad, and my brother, and when I was growing up, I was constantly, like, verbally abused by my dad and my brother, and it just like, all took over my senior year of high school. And I think I had mentioned this a little bit before, but I actually left my family during my senior year of high school because of a domestic violence case, and I realized that through this, like, I'd lost my family. I wasn't able to go back there because I had restraining orders against them, that I had to leave my family, and I didn't have anywhere to go. But there were people in my class that stepped up and said that they would support me, and they asked their parents if I could stay with them, and I narrowed it down to 2 options, and I ended up staying with a family whose name I will not disclose. And this family just took me in as if I was their own child, and they provided for me, and they helped me get to college. So I was there from December of 2007 and until I left for college in August of 2008, and they provided me with a job, they provided me with transportation whenever I needed to get anywhere. And actually, when I lived with this family was when I first started going to church, because my entire first 18 years of my life I had never been to church before. But then I started going to Grace United Methodist Church in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. And when I was there, I was able to just learn a little bit about who Jesus was, and it just kind of planted a seed in me. I don't think if I had not been to church before would I have gotten involved in Christian Campus House once I had arrived at Trine. So once I had arrived at Trine, I got involved with CCH, and I continued my relationship with this family that I had lived with, and I had went home during Christmas break and a couple other breaks, but like I said, for the summer months I would leave, and spring break I would leave to go on missions trips. And then in October of 2009, almost 2 years after I had stopped my relationship, like talking to my mom, I just felt this overwhelming feeling to reconnect with her. So this was right when I got back from my missions trip to Cedar Point, and I just felt this overwhelming sensation. And I had written my mom a letter right after my 19th birthday, and I'd sent it to her in the mail, and she had received it on Halloween Day. And my best friend, which is also my cousin, Courtney, had sent me a text message, and she was like, "Brandi, your mom had received the letter, and she said it was the best thing that she could have ever received." So like that just like warmed my heart, and just helped me to know that my mom would be able to mend this relationship with me, that we were going to be able to have a relationship. And in December of 2009, so a couple months later I had met up with her for the first time in 2 years. And honestly, if it was a day sooner, I would not have been ready for it. Like, it was totally in God's perfect timing. Like, we had met at a local restaurant in Washington Courthouse and sat down, and literally the first thing that she said out of her mouth was, Brandi, I just want to forget about the past and put in the past and just come on and just have a new relationship with you, and let's just forget everything and just move forward, because you've changed and I've changed, and I just want to love you and I just want to have a relationship with you. So at that moment I knew that, like, that was God's perfect timing for me to be able to have a relationship with her. And so I had continued talking to my mom, and so that was in December 2009. So, like, I just reconnected with my mom, and then in February of 2010, I had been emailing the mother of the family that I was staying with since 2007, and the conversation just ended up being and concluded in, Brandi, I don't want to be a part of your life anymore. I'm not going to be a part of it anymore. And this lady turned off my phone. She disconnected everything, every communication I had with her. And it all started with a conversation over when she was going to be able to send in my taxes. And this lady was just going through a divorce, and the way I see it, and some other people see it, is she was trying to get rid of the things that were disposable in her life, and I was one of those things. So in February 2010, I was homeless, not by the literal sense, but because I was on my campus, so I stayed there and lived there. But for every break, I had to find a home to go to. I had to find somewhere where I could go and stay for a break. And honestly, like, God provided for me so much through that. Every single break, I've had somewhere to go. Every single time I've needed something, people have been there for me. And in the literal sense, yes, I do not have a permanent home, but there's so many of my friends that have just surrounded me and let me know that I can stay at their house at any time. My campus minister has said the same thing. There's several people in Angola that have opened up their homes to me. And just, honestly, I would not have had this support and all these people coming around me if it was not through my testimony, and just an acknowledgement of, like, God's grace in my life and how much He has provided for me and how much He's going to provide for me, because there's no way that I'd be able to do this alone. And even when I went to Kenya, like, I had 3 weeks before between going from leaving my dorm room until I had to leave for Kenya. And I had nowhere to go because the Christian Campus House housing was full. But my campus minister had asked an elderly couple, Jean and Janet Worsler from Angola, if they would house me for those 3 weeks, and they did, and it was honestly some of the biggest growing that I've had in my life, where I was able to be there from two very wise people in their faith, and just sharing with them about Kenya, because their daughter has been a missionary there for over 22 years. So be able to share with them about that, and I was actually able to meet their daughter when I was over in Kenya. And to be able to just do all these things, and honestly, when I was in Kenya, God showed me that I'm not homeless. Because, I mean, I'm not that I'm not homeless, but that I will always be homeless while I'm here on earth, because, like, I'm not made for here. Like, this is not the place that I'm meant to be, and God has called me to be in eternity with Him, and that's the only place that I'm going to be fully fulfilled by, a home. So whether it's me going on a week-long missions trip and staying somewhere, or if it's just a weekend, or if I'm staying at the Christian Campus House girls' house, like, these are all not permanent homes, no matter where I am in America. Even when I'm on the world race, like, my homes are not going to be permanent, they're going to be temporary, and it's just going to be an area for me to just realize that God's going to provide for me in wherever I'm going, and that my permanent place is that my permanent home is in Him in heaven, and it's something I wouldn't have realized until I went to Kenya and seeing all the poverty there, and seeing, like, how much God was stretching me when I was there. And actually, after the world race, I mean, I'm going to leave my stuff in Angola, Indiana, but other than that, like, I literally pretty much don't have anywhere to go, so I'm going on faith as I'm going on the world race that God is going to provide things for me, that He's going to provide me with direction and guidance and knowledge of where He's calling me to go after the world race, because one of the biggest things that my heart and my passion is for this ministry is to be able to go and to share Jesus with these people, and to be able to be involved in their culture and to be engulfed in it, to see if God is calling me to go to one of these countries full time after the world race, or if God is calling me to a certain type of ministry, because He has laid on my heart evangelism. And I just love sharing about Jesus, and I can turn almost any conversation to Jesus, like Taco Bell. I could probably turn that into a conversation about Jesus, just because I like to throw in Taco Bell every 5 minutes. So, but just God has just given me this gift, and there's so, like, evangelism is so broad, like, there's so many things that you can do with it, and I want to be able to narrow it down to seek God's guidance and to know that He's going to provide guidance and direction for me through the world race.
See, this is why I had to interview Brandi, because her testimony is very similar to mine. I remember that time when God pulled me to the side, or however you want to call it, quiet voice in your ear while I was homeless, and say, I'll always be homeless. And I had somebody pull me over to the side and say, no, that's not possible. We're going to make certain you're taken care of. I said, you don't get it. I've had that conversation with God and others where your mother and father forsake you, and God says, I'm going to take care of you. I'm your mom and dad. Brandi and I can relate in a lot of ways. I know what it's like for domestic violence and being a victim who's now a survivor. We're both survivors from many years of multiple styles of abuse. Verbal abuse, physical abuse, list goes on of abuses. And instead of staying in this victim mentality, that's what the world labels it, you're a victim of sexual assault, you're a victim of verbal abuse, you're a victim of physical violence upon your life or whatnot. God had a bigger plan than these events that have happened to us. Now, I know people will stop me right here dead in my tracks and say, well, why would God allow this to happen? And yes, God has allowed these things to happen, but it's the fact that God can see you through these problems. Because there's somebody else right now the devil has such a hold on and is using or is suppressing someone's life, and the only person that person's going to listen to is someone who's been in your shoes. Brandi and I wear lots of shoes. And the reason why she's going on the world race, the reason why she's been to all these different countries, is because God is capable of using her. And God will provide this plan for her next step before she's even done. You know, she has a place to come stay here with us. She has a place in Washington Courthouse. She has several places in Indiana that she's not going to be unhoused. There's no way any of us are going to allow that to happen. So you guys don't worry about that. But I know there's several ministries and ministers that are curious of how can we donate to your ministry. I know you brought some items you would like to share with us right now. You can start talking about those if you want. Like she said, she has about $5,000 to go for the world race. Now, these items, these bracelets, bring back part of my history, because you said they're from the Philippines, right?
Yes, they are from the Philippines. These are bracelets that I found through an organization called Threads of Hope. You can go to their website at threadsofhope.com/ph, I do believe. And they are made in the Philippines by women there. And these women are able to stay at home all day, and they are able to make these bracelets. They can actually make from 5 to 7 an hour, and they can watch their children. They can provide for their families through these. They see funds from these. They're able to be there and just provide for their family in every way possible. And these bracelets right here are a testimony to keep them out of something that's very prevalent in their society right now, which is prostitution. Women in the Philippines right now are being driven out of their homes and into prostitution to be able to provide for their families. And these bracelets are hope, and that's where they get their name from, Threads of Hope. so that they can still have hope in Christ, and it's being able to share the gospel with them. They're getting involved with churches and finding more hope in their lives so that they can provide for their families and share Christ just through these bracelets. And so these bracelets are a fundraiser that I've been doing pretty much since I've been accepted to go on the world race, and they are $1 or $2 for one bracelet, or you can purchase 3 of them for $5. There's honestly all types of colors, and I was so bored over Christmas break that I even color coordinated them for you in case you want some. And so these bracelets, every color imaginable you could think of I have. If you would like to purchase one, I would be more than willing to ship them to you with a fee of $1. And so they're 1 for $2. You can buy 3 for $5. You can buy 5 and get 1 free. And there will be contact information scrolling at the bottom of the screen with more information on how you can contact me through this. And you can just tell me like what colors you want, and I will pick them out for you. And if you have a Facebook or an email account, I can email you a picture of the bracelets before I send them to you. And if you like them, then I will send them by mail to you. And just $1 for shipping. Or if you're in the Washington Courthouse area or Angola, Indiana area, I can hand deliver them to you as well. But so it's been an awesome opportunity, and I'm so thankful for all the people that have already purchased these bracelets. I've already made around $500 from this fundraiser, and some of the money has honestly just been donations that have been handed to me from people. They're like, I don't want to buy a bracelet, but here you go, Brandi, here's $20 towards your missions trip. So it's been awesome to see a testimony of how God's providing through these. And I'm just now finishing up a t-shirt fundraiser, so if you guys would like one of the t-shirts as well, I'm going to order extra. I'm not certain how many extra, but they are $20, and you can purchase one of those and I can ship them to you. Shipping and handling will be about $3 on those as well. And as far as that goes, like, honestly, people in my squad have asked me, Brandi, like, how do you support Raise? Like, what do you do, and how do you get the word out there about the world race? Like, I don't understand how you've done this. And honestly, it hasn't been me. Like, God is working in people's hearts, from people that I went to school with in high school, from people that I went to school with in college, to random people that I meet and relationships that I've built. God's just providing, and I've raised over $10,000 so far, and over the last 3 years, that means I've raised over $20,000 for mission trips. And just to think of that number, it just boggles my mind, and thinking that God has provided that much money. And it literally, like, what I do is I send out support letters to a network of about 150 people that I have, and I will reconnect with some, and some of them I won't even reconnect with, and then I'll look at my account. I have this online account that keeps track of how much money I have had contributed towards my world race, and then I'll just see these numbers pop up, and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, did that person just contribute $2,000, or did that person just give me $600 more when they've already given me $500? And it's just amazing to see God at work in people's lives, of contributing to God's work throughout the world, and to contributing to someone that's being God's hands and feet throughout the nations. And if you would like to purchase one of these, you can contact me through the blog, as in my bracelets or my t-shirt, or even if you would just like to make a personal donation towards my missions trip, you can send in a check to Adventures in Missions. The address will be at the bottom of the screen right now, and you just put in the Memo line appeal ID or WILCOX Brandi, and that will be sent in to the address. Other than that, you could donate online if you would like to. There is a 5% processing fee for credit card donations, so I like to lead people to doing sending a check in the mail. So if you would like to do that, my blog URL is brandywilcox.theworldrace.org, and underneath my picture on the left-hand side, it has some tabs that you can go to, and the Contact Me button is what you will go to if you would like to purchase a bracelet, or if you would like to purchase a t-shirt. And then a couple below that, it says Support Me, and then it has the amount of money that I still need to raise, which is, I think it says something around $5,000 left to go. And you click on that link, and it'll send you straight over, and you just fill out the form with your credit card information, and that'll be sent in directly through there.
Yeah, but she also has a Twitter account, which is Kenya Pray, and then the Facebook and the blog, and the Survey Monkey account for the t-shirts. And of course, as she said, BrandiWilcox.theworldrace.org. This has been an amazing, and I told you I'd keep you here almost an hour. It's 6 seconds still. You didn't think you talked this long, did you?
No, I did not think I talked this long.
We will probably be interviewing Brandi again, either somehow during the trip or after the trip. We will have you back again because I want to have an update on all the different trips. I realize she's going to try every month, either right in between or as soon as she lands in the next country. There should be updates from her throughout the trip is what I'm trying to say. So it's not like she's just going to be gone for 11 months and you won't know what's going on. You're going to be able to almost realistically, if she has an internet connection, she's going to post as much as possible. She'll be taking pictures. She'll be writing letters and stories and testimonies of people's changing lives. This is going to be an amazing time for this next coming year. Brandi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.